Hey, what is going on, everybody? It is your boy AK-12 here, back with some more Battlefield class setups for you guys today. Today, as promised, I will be showing you guys my vehicle setups in this game and pretty much what I always use on my vehicles. So, we're going to go right into it, go to Loadout, and look at my vehicle setup. So, for my main battle tank, almost 99% of the time I will use the AP shell. HE is very rare that you'll see me using this. I may use it on maps like Caesar Shanghai or other small close quarter maps such as Zavad 311. You only see me using the HE shell on the close quarters map, but as an all-around shell, I strongly recommend AP as it deals a pretty good amount of damage. 55 damage critical to the butt if you manage to get behind that booty of the tank. And the Sabot shell, whatever you want to call it. I use this on big maps such as, what's that map called? Gold Mud Railway. It's pretty rare that you'll see me using this shell, but there is a nice little benefit to this shell, and that is that this is really good for taking out air vehicles. If you want to go for nice kill cams and your crazy shots and whatnot, this is definitely the shell that you want to go for. Whenever I'm shooting jets down, this is the shell that I'm using because it's fast firing. And on top of that, for tanks, if a tank pops his APS, aka active protection system, this will go right through it. So APS will not block the disabled shell because it doesn't have an explosive payload. The only thing I don't like about it is that its damage is not very good. It's generally average about 20 to 25 damage per shot. Doesn't go any higher than 25. So this is pretty rare, but majority of the time it's AP shell. Secondary weapon, I always use HMG. I never use anything else. It's very rare that I'll use the canister shell or the LMG. I always use HMG because it's pretty much a 2 to 3 shot kill, assuming that you have good accuracy. Countermeasures, always APS, always a must when you're in a tank battle. This thing will pretty much stop any explosives coming in for about 2 to 3 seconds. I think it's like 5 seconds. I don't know how long it is exactly, but this will pretty much stop anything coming through your tank except for non-explosive devices such as the Sable shell, like I said before. Optics, I usually always use thermal. Very rare that I use zoom optics because I don't really like the zoom optics. If I'm playing close quarters map, maybe I'll use zoom optics, but I like to be able to see people that are hiding inside grass and whatnot, so thermal optics is the way to go. Upgrades, always reactive armor, reduces that incoming damage to your tank. Paint, whatever personal paint you want to use. Gunner optics, always gunner's thermal for me, because I like to see if I'm gunning with a friend or whatnot. I always want to be able to see those people that are hiding in the bush trying to see for the tank. So that's pretty useful as well. Gunner upgrade, always proximity scan. Don't use incendiary. That thing is trash. I don't know why that's such a high unlock. It doesn't even do anything that really. By the time your enemy dies of the incendiary or whatever, they've already C4'd your tank, so it's pretty much useless. Flam's pretty useless as well because I don't laser targets at all. Belt feeder's nice, but if you're tap firing your gun, it doesn't really matter. So proximity scan is the best because you're able to avoid getting C4'd from your tank. Now moving on, infantry fighting vehicle, IFV, whatever you want to call it. I always use the 25 HE shell. This is the best shell. I do not recommend this APF SDST shell. This thing just I don't even know what's the point of this thing. I mean, it's really good on armored vehicles such as tanks, but think about it. An infantry fighting vehicle, it's infantry in the beginning of the vehicle. Obviously, it's designed to take out infantry, not designed to take out tanks. Even though this does have nice damage to tanks and other types of vehicles, there's no point, literally, of using this thing. So pretty much 25 millimeter HE shell. You're going to want that explosive payload. Canister shell is pretty useless as well. It just shoots a bunch of balls across the map. And you'll get more hit markers than kills with this thing, unless you're right in front of them. Secondary weapon, this is pretty rare that you see people doing this, but I use the tow missile. Reason why is because tow missile has a nice critical damage that it deals to vehicles, disabling them. That first shot with this missile pretty much disables them. I'm able to take out tanks with ease with this thing. This thing just deals pretty good amount of damage. I believe it's about 35 and 40 damage to other infantry fighting vehicles. Zuni rockets are good as well. It has that constant DPS, but it's kind of spamming these things down range. If you miss your shot, it's kind of critical. LMG, I may use this sometimes if I'm playing like Zavad 311, but majority of times I stick with tow missile because one, I like to go for clips with this thing, and two, it deals a considerable amount of damage because I have a decent amount of aim to hit my targets with this missile. So this is preference, but if you want to know the best setups, Zuni rockets and tow missile are your two best options. LMG is a good option as well, but you're going to be at risk because like I said, the 25mm shell doesn't deal that much damage to other vehicles. So you're going to want to have an extra missile to kind of deal that extra damage. Your optics, thermal optics, obviously, like I said before, reactive armor is a must. Paint doesn't matter. Gunner thermal always, and gunner proximity scan always a must for these types of vehicles. Moving on, mobile anti-aircraft. Occasionally, I usually use the 30mm. I actually don't know why 20mm is on. Sometimes my classes reset themselves and I gotta refix everything, but I always use 30mm cannons. These deal the most amount of damage, but they heat up a lot, so you gotta be careful. Like I said, I don't use heat seekers at all. I always use active radar. This thing pretty much allows you to spam rockets in midair. Sometimes I may swap this out. Recently I've been swapping this out for Zuni rockets, and the reason for that is because there's no real point for active radar. Even though it has missiles incoming, there's no real point of using it because of the fact that people pop flares by the time they hear that thing incoming, and it doesn't really deal that much damage. And plus, if you get yourself in a sticky situation, you can back yourself up with Zuni rockets, and that's pretty nice as well. So I pretty much use Zuni rockets all the time now. Like I said, I don't use IR smoke. Like I said, these classes reset themselves. APS is always a must for any type of vehicle, in my opinion. Thermal optics, always a must. Upgrades, always use reactive armor. You don't need air radar, because assuming that you're going to be the one spotting everything, you don't really need the air radar. You can see everything from the ground anyway, so it's not a big deal. Paint, obviously, whatever you want. Moving on to the anti-attack boats. Not anti-attack boats. I used to use the 30mm a lot, but I found that I'm not a fan of the drop on this thing, the bullet drop. So I usually stick to the 25 or the burst cannon. Burst cannon is actually really good, pretty underrated. Deals an 8-round burst, and to vehicles in midair, that thing just destroys things in the air. It'll take out a chopper in one clip, pretty much. That's how deadly that thing is to air vehicles. But as an all-around type of gun, I stick to the 25 cannons just to get myself out of any sticky situation. TV missile is always a must as your secondary weapon. APS, always a must. Thermal optics or zoom optics. I'll use either or. I'll never use IRNV optics. I don't see a need for that. Zoom optics is nice if you can get that nice little shot across the map on a boat, or it's any infantry type of combat going on the land. But thermal optics is also nice in case you see a dude in the water. This helps you see anybody that's swimming in the water trying to see for your boat, so that's pretty nice as well. And upgrades, obviously proximity scan, paint, anything that you want, doesn't really matter. We'll just save that just in case. Moving on to stealth jets. I don't really fly jets that much, but as a precaution, I'll use the 25 cannons. Don't use the 30s. They fly pretty slow. Laser guided. I'll usually use the heat seekers or active radar. I don't see a point in any of these as well. Belt feeder, obviously, I use flares or ECM jammer, whichever you prefer. Belt feeder, obviously a must. Or there's no point in proximity scan. Gyro stabilizer is nice as well. But most cases, you're just going to be, spinning around in circles if you get hit with a missile. So don't really see a need for any of that stuff as well. Moving on. Scouts, like I said, I don't fly scouts. I don't have XP with these things. Don't be a noob and use the 25 cannons. I don't see a point in using those things. If you want to get good at the scouts, use the 7.62 miniguns. Those take a lot of skill to use, and it'll make you more accurate, and you'll become a lot better player rather than using the blast radius of these things. No real point. Heat seekers, usually a must, always. Laser guided if you want to go even more pro. ECM jammer, obviously, or flares. ECM or flares, whichever you prefer. ECM can be a bit unreliable for me. I don't really use it that much. Air radar is always a must. No need for gyro stabilizer on scouts because I don't see a need for it as well. Paint, obviously any paint. I don't put a paint on there because like I said, I don't use those things. Attack jets, like I said, the default cannon, obviously you can't change that. Like I said, I don't fly jets that much, but if I did have a choice to use fly jets, I would use Hydra rockets. Hydra rockets deal insane amount of damage to vehicles down below, and that's what an attack jet is meant for. It's meant for vehicles down below, and it's also good for taking out jets as well. But obviously the stealth jet has more maneuverability, so you're gonna have more luck flying that thing. But as a precaution, always use Hydra rockets and the default cannon as well. Gyro stabilizers and IR flares are always a must. Moving on, I believe I skipped something. Yeah, I did skip something. Attack helicopters, last but not least. Zuni rockets, I usually use Zuni rockets. They deal more damage, but they also come with less shells. Smart rockets, I don't see a point for these things. There's no real point. I mean, you could use it if you want to be cheap, but you know, I prefer Zuni rockets. Helps me be more accurate. Heat seeker is always a must for attacks. Don't use tow missile. Chances are you're gonna miss your shot unless you're a god at this game, and I don't know how good you are. But you know, like I said, stick with heat seekers. IR flares always a must. ECM jammer, like I said, whichever you want to use for those things. Don't use fire extinguisher because by the time that you're disabled, you're already blown out of the sky, so it doesn't matter. Gyro stabilizer is good as well, but I usually stick to air radar. It's really good as well. Paint doesn't matter. Gunner's secondary weapon. Always use TV missile. Don't use laser guided. I just don't have it unlocked yet because I don't really fly. Like I said, I don't fly vehicles that much. I only stick to land vehicles. And gunner optics. Thermal is your best bet. Zoom is nice as well. You can go whichever one you prefer. Don't use IRNV. There's no point. Too much green on my screen and I don't like it. But gunner thermal will allow you to take out those targets that are, you know, hiding in the corners on rooftops. Helps you see them a lot better. And gunner upgrade, you're gonna either want you just use belt feeder. Don't use proximity scan. There's no point because you're air vehicles. So there's no point in revealing enemy movement on the mini map. There's no point, literally. So always use belt feeder. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed those class setups. Those are my. If you missed the video regarding my class setups for the guns, I will link that in the description. That was the previous episode. So I hope you guys do enjoy these vehicles. Obviously, there's no class setup for the transport, so I'm not going to waste my time with that. But hope you guys did enjoy this video. It is your boy AK, signing out.